Hello, everybody. It's Marcy again from wavesofcommunication.com with another video for you. I'm going to be talking today about why now is the best time and why any option that you ever considered that language facilitation wouldn't work for you, that it can't help you, or there's nothing can help your child, or you're basically lost without a solution. This video is designed to help address some of those fears and worries that your child is never going to talk. That everybody falls into that mindset trap. Everybody who has a late talking child, especially if they are older than it starts already at 2 and 3 with some families, but especially if you've been through a lot of therapies, if you've literally done everything and your child's still not using the speech that you're looking for, that you paid therapists to help you get, that you have traveled to millions of therapy appointments hoping that would happen and it's not happening for you. This video is for you to help you understand why now is the best time for you to take action and how to get started with that. So, let's start to talk a little bit about some of these fears. And in each one of these fears, I'm going to give you some ideas followed by that. And if this is the first time you're watching, welcome, of course. And those of you who are coming back, welcome back. This is the perfect time for you to hit the like button on this video. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I am pretty lucky. I think compared to other Facebooker or YouTube videos, sorry, today we're on YouTube. A lot of other YouTubers don't have a very high percentage of subscribers. And I do. I think a lot of the families that follow me subscribe to my channel because one of the greatest things is you can always come back here for more advice and tips and information as you are working with your child. It's a never ending stream of information, my channel. So it is a really good idea for you to subscribe. Now, what we're going to be doing on this video, how I've structured it, is I've got a list of 5 different sort of major fears that tend to block parents from taking action with language facilitation. And language facilitation is different than therapy. And if you are currently in a therapy and you're not seeing the results you want to be seeing, you can use language facilitation on your own, regardless if your child is going to therapy or not. Part of this process, you're going to learn whether you even need to be taking your child to those other therapies. If you are effective enough at teaching your child now, because right now we're in a situation where therapy is very volatile. We're not really sure what's going on. So let's get into these fears because that's one of them. But I'm going to go to the basic. The number one fear that most parents of older kids who are older than, especially older than 5 or 6 years old, I'm talking to you folks. If you have a child who's that age, and they've been late talking, obviously, their whole life or most of their life, and they're not using the spoken language you're hoping for. By this age, you probably, if you've done a lot of therapy, heard your child say something. They may have said mama, they may have said single words, they may have said babbling, they may have used all kinds of vocalizations in addition to a lot of nonverbal communication with gestures and pantomime and dragging you around the house, pointing, all of that stuff outside of picture sign language. I'm just talking about what your child is doing on their own right now. Guaranteed, if your child is older than 5 or 6 years old, they know how to communicate with you. They've learned how to use a bunch of nonverbal ways to let you know for sure when they like something, when they don't like it. They probably are even pretty good at letting you know exactly what they want and that they want it right now. Now, what's super great about older late talkers that you can have that you can take for for a valuable asset that you have that the parents of little kids don't have is you have a child who has been listening at some stage, probably not great because if they were a better listener, they'd be a better language speaker. But if you've been talking to your child, and so have therapists and teachers and family members and everyone else in the world, as long as there have been people speaking to your child all of their life, then they've heard a lot of language. They understand the basics. If they can follow directions and do things like that, you've been able to teach your child to do things, that's even better because toddlers, they don't have a base language and older kids already do. And what language facilitation does as basically a method is we take the nonverbal communication that a child is already using and turn that into the spoken language they mean by those communications. And kids who are older than 5 years old definitely have things to say. And the older they get, the more they have to say because they develop their personalities, they develop their preferences, they develop their superpowers too. And a smart language facilitator parent will start right now to understand exactly what, how, why, and in which way your child is currently communicating with you and learn how to provide the spoken language that goes with that communication so your child can start to learn from you. Now, before anybody starts to pull words out of your child with these methods, you have to understand that that's not what this is about. We train kids to be listeners, to learn how to learn language from everybody so they don't just rely on you to be their language interpreter for all of these nonverbal behaviors they're using. So what's really important if you have a child who is older than especially 5 years old, but especially if they're older than 10, right? If you've got a really older child, by now usually between 5 and 10, you have bypassed, hopefully, those hardcore speechy things. You probably burnt out on a lot of those things where kids have to say words over and over again, or you manipulate their mouth, or you have them touch pictures or do signs or say the same things over and over again, sounds or words, any of that. You probably have given those things up between 5 and 10 years old. Usually, at some point in that process, parents decide that stuff doesn't work. It's not working for my family. It's not working for my child. It's not working for anybody. And if you're in that middle stage right now between 5 years old and 10 years old, and you've been in therapy for a while, you're probably hitting that mark right now, thinking, oh no, it's never going to happen. We've been doing this, and now we're doing something else. Between 5 and 10 is when you start to jump around. You go and do interactive metronome and auditory processing listening and biomedical information and homeopathy and all of that stuff, all these different brain balance and fast forward and all these other programmy things you start to use because those of you who are smart enough realize that there's something going on in your child's brain that is keeping them from speaking, and you're trying to train that thing in their child's brain. That's what all those things do: brain balance, interactive metronome, auditory processing, listening, all those gym kind of things. They're designed to help your child's brain. Same with biomedical. And you may be searching around giving all those things between 5 years old and 10 years old because your child's already in the therapy and the therapy's decreasing working, right? All that repetitive stuff isn't flying anymore. Your child doesn't like it. You don't like it. It's not working. No speech is coming. The therapy's getting more and more tedious. Maybe your child even starts to avoid that therapy, right? So now you're wondering, why am I spending all my time and money going to that thing, right? The answer is it's time to stop. And that's what number 2 is, right? What happens when your child's not interested in speech anymore? Like, if you think they're too old, first of all, the fact that if you have ever been told your child is not able to learn speech because that therapy didn't work, that just means that that therapy didn't work. That doesn't mean that your child's not capable of learning speech. It just means that that therapist, doctor, whoever told you that is not capable of teaching your child speech. And that's true. They are not capable. The only one who is capable of teaching your child who's older than 5 years old to use spontaneous, unprompted spoken language is you. In their house, in their everyday life, you are the only one, because if they've gotten to this age, and again, if they're older than 10, now you're talking about somebody who has gotten into the habit of figuring out, like, after 10 years, a child is very, very good at learning just enough spoken language, just enough words to say to get them through their life. That's it. Everything that they seriously want to communicate, they will try hard, either non-verbally or verbally. They'll start to read, they'll start to write, they'll start to point things out, whatever they will do to avoid talking, especially if those other therapies are continuing. If you continue to try to pull words out of your child, maybe now you're just prompting out all the scripted language they have. Like, you find yourself constantly asking questions because you know your child has a ton of language in there, but they're not using it, right? And that you can feel like, wow, what happened? What got broken in the process? And what happened in the process was it broke down. It broke down because none of those memorization techniques result in functional language. It never, never does. It never does. The only time kids late talkers end up with spontaneous spoken language is when parents teach them how to do it. Because the only way any human can learn to use spontaneous, unprompted spoken language is by listening to people using spoken language functionally. And that's why every language facilitation activity you will do, it doesn't matter how structured it has to be functional. And it's not just saying words to label pictures or describe actions, especially if your child is older than 5 years old. Remember, they've been hearing, or they've been talked to anyway, demonstrated, and probably even prompted to demonstrate that they understand the meaning of the labels and descriptions for everything in their environment. If you have an older late talker, I just started with a family of a 17-year-old. This little guy can, in a very highly structured situation, have back and forth exchange 2 or 3 times in a scripted conversation. How are you? I'm fine. How are you today? I'm feeling happy today. Oh, that's great. Like, a child can learn to memorize a whole conversation back and forth, what they're supposed to say when people say greetings to them. But that is just a memorized behavior. It is not their own spontaneous language. The stuff that's not prompted when you're not asking them a question is going to be very limited to single words, part words, memorized echolalia, and behaviors that they will use, even after 10, 11, and in this kid's case, 17 years old. He has some beautiful language to describe pictures. He can even describe a whole story and tell a whole story on a storyboard because it was structured in therapy. This kid has had tons of therapy, but he still can't use conversational language because his parents never facilitated it. They stayed stuck in this repetition. Now they've trained their child to memorize the answers to the questions that they ask every day. And then they find when they ask a novel question, their child isn't able to answer it. And also, their conversational exchanges are limited to 2 or 3 because that's all a child can memorize. And in a structured, functional situation, the conversation is functional. Things change. Somebody said something funny. Somebody said something they didn't mean to say, and it was funny, and everybody's laughing. How does your child know what all that means? If they are so prompt dependent, which is usually what happens to most kids past this age, parents end up prompting them through their life, and they go step by step by step. The only time they talk is when they're modeled, when speech is modeled for them, or the words are pulled out with questions, right? Because that's how they were taught that talking works, with tons and tons of therapy. Okay. And therapy is all about pulling words out of kids. Parents watch therapists and they get into also the habit of pulling words out of kids. And think about this: if your therapists are pulling words out of your child, the teachers are prompting and pulling words out of your child, your friends and family are prompting and pulling words out of your child, and you are prompting and pulling words out of your child, who is teaching your child the words that they need to answer all those questions and prompts? The answer is nobody. If you are prompting as much, if you are trying to be a teacher or therapist with your child, then it is time for something new. That's what this video is all about. These fears that you have, my child's never gonna, it's true. They're never gonna talk if you keep doing what you're doing. Now is the time to try something new. Here's another reason that parents give up and they think their kids are never going to talk. And that's when their kids hate it. Parents work endlessly. They're trying to be teachers and therapists all the time, and their kids really hate it. They start to ignore them, especially older kids. They find they can take, while you're talking to them, they can take their attention and literally move it, and even be making eye contact with you, or looking at your face, or standing in front of you and playing with the same thing. But they will take their attention and move it away from you. And then what do? You're talking to thin air. Their attention is elsewhere. And you could be, if you have an older child, wasting a lot of time trying to pull words out of a child who's not even paying attention to you. Okay. You could be even wasting time if you're doing language facilitation, trying to feed words into your child's language processing system so that they can use them later, and your child's not paying attention to you. Okay. That means that you're not using your language facilitation properly, because language facilitation only works when you're in the zone with your child, when you're modeling the words that they're thinking, not the words you want them to say, not the words you hope they will say, that you'll pray that they'll say, that you lay awake at night wishing they would say. That's not how language works. Language has to be facilitated. Children have to understand and learn how spoken language works, not just the list of vocabulary words like they learn in speech therapy. Okay. Every child who goes to every speech therapy session, no matter what the target goal is of the speech therapy, it is a requirement for parents to facilitate that skill at home during functional activities. So if your child's doing flashcards with a therapist, you should be using dishwashing and clothes washing and everyday activities, riding bikes and playing games and things like that, to be doing speech. If your child is not interested in doing any of those things with you, that means that you have pushed them away. You're not being attractive enough for them to listen to you. You're trying to pull words out, and you're trying to bring work home. And nobody wants to work at home all day, right? So if your strategies are not working, you have to figure out why that is. You can't just keep doing more of them. This is a very common ABA trick. And here's another reason that keeps parents stuck. Practitioners will lie to you. They will tell you that just more of the same, prompting and prodding your child to pulling words out, coaching them through hand over hand, making them say words, right? That's somehow going to make their brain learn how to teach them to talk independently, spontaneously, using spoken language. And it's just not true. The verbal behavior approach is aptly named because it is just teaching a child to use speech as a behavior, to answer a question, ask for something, label something. That's it. That's all it can teach. It's not going to teach a child to share their feelings. It's going to say, I'm mad, instead of having a tantrum. But it's not the method to teach I'm mad instead of a tantrum doesn't involve teaching the child to respond to their feelings and understand their feelings. It involves pulling those words out when your child is doing some behavior and saying I'm mad, hoping they memorize it. But when your child's mad, they're not going to be very interested in memorizing new vocabulary and learning new spoken language structures from you. That only happens when your child is happy. Okay. And when your child is happy and interested and engaged in listening to you, that's when they learn the language that you want them to learn. That's it. That's the only way that they will learn the language that you learn, that you want them to learn. Their language, the language that comes from their heart, the things that they want to say. If you are going to be satisfied, if you feel that you will be satisfied listening to your child give a prompted conversation, then keep right on going to speech therapy because that's all they can teach you. That's all they can teach your child. That's all they can teach you to teach your child. If they are doing that, if that's the goal, is for your child to participate in a spontaneous conversation, you can't facilitate that with memorization. Memorization's not spontaneous, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. It's not what you think, what someone else thinks you're saying. It's what you say. I know I go in on this all the time, but a lot of parents don't understand the difference between this. So if your practitioner, let's say your ABA practitioner says, we're going to start with this many hours and you get this many hours and you see a little improvement in behavior, but there's no speech coming, they'll say, oh no, we need to add more speech because that was just working on this behavior and now we're going to work on speech. But what they're doing is this verbal behavior situation where they're just trading it in one behavior for another. And that's not what communication is. Communication is sharing your ideas that are in your head, the thoughts you have with spoken language. That's the difference. All right. Now, if you made a lot of financial commitment, maybe you spent years with these ABA people or the therapy people or whoever they are with you, and the pandemic hit or your therapist changed or whatever, it doesn't matter. Something changed to make that situation not working anymore. Okay. Maybe it got too easy for your child. Maybe it got too basic and your child already learned those things, but because they still are collecting data, they haven't finished their program. Your child has to keep going through these things that they already know because they're ready to move. Like they might be a fast learner. That's the other thing, especially older kids. When they learn how a system works, the first time they learn how a system works, they learn it. They don't have to memorize every single time that this is the front door and it goes outside. The first time you show them this is the front door and it goes outside, they learn that that's the way to go out. You don't have to teach them over and over and over again. When a system is taught to a child, they learn it. Language is a system. It's not a series of memorized behaviors. And if those series of memorized behaviors are not getting you functional results, it is time to stop that training. It's time to stop, okay? Because it's not getting you the results you want. More of the same bad training is going to get you the same result. In fact, worse, because it's going to be even more frustrating for your child. Watch the therapy. Do it yourself. Engage and see what it is. Would you put yourself in your child's shoes? Would you like it? Would you enjoy? Are you excited about going there? And is your child excited about going there? Do they enjoy it? Are they looking forward to it? And are they learning? So, hi, Shanila. Thank you for joining me today. By the way, this is a live Q&A. So if you have a question for me, now is your chance to go ahead and put it in the comments. And after I talk about this topic, I will get to those questions. So super great for saying hi. I'm really passionate about this right now because I've got a lot of parents who are sending me messages telling me that their therapies aren't working and they're really worried that their kids are never going to talk. And especially with what's going on right now, even if you had therapy that was working, it might not be available now. You might not have access to a therapist. You might have telesessions, but that's not working. I mean, it could be that your whole situation is breaking down around you bit by bit, especially now with school being the way it is. And volatile. It's not open. Some buildings are open. If they're open, some kids are wearing masks. Other kids aren't wearing masks. Will your kid wear a mask? There's all these other things that are going on in the world of school right now that makes it so volatile that you can't rely on it. Not now. A smart parent is not relying on school or therapy. You can't anyway, even when it's working perfectly, but especially right now, you can't. You can't rely on it. Use those, whatever resources you have, as resources for you. Like I said, I call them resources because everybody's surrounded. These teachers are smart, but they're working in a system that they didn't pick. The therapists are smart, but they didn't pick their therapy system right now. The pandemic affected everybody, and they're doing the best they can, but teachers are not prepared. They're not prepared for their lessons because they're too busy worrying about infection. The therapists are not prepared, and they're doing trainings with online learning situations. They're having to get out of their comfort zone, and they have many children to take care of. So this is where parents need to understand, if what's breaking down around you, the therapy things, even if they were working, you need to find a way, because time's going to go by before school opens up. A year. It's going to be next year, hopefully. By next fall, things will be back to some semblance of normalcy. But it's not going to be even in the spring. We're not even going to have a vaccine for everybody available, and those who aren't going to take it. I mean, there's a lot more fallout that's going to happen between the election in the US and all the changes that are happening internationally. Look, it's time now for you to make your own plan and take responsibility for this, because even with the best intentions, teachers aren't doing it right now and therapists aren't doing it right now. So let's see, there's one other thing that can really stump parents. And like I said, especially that period of time between 5 years old and 7 years old, that's when a lot of parents do a lot of struggling and looking for new options. They're doing a lot of digging, doing a lot of Googling, doing a lot of other stuff. And if your child has unresolved medical issues, like their ear infections haven't gone away yet after 5 years old, even after 3 years old, if they haven't done that, you really need to do, my computer's running low. I don't know why. There's power just went out in my house. That's what's going on. Oh, hopefully the internet's going to work. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully everything's going to go good. So I'm going to hopefully, yeah. Sorry. I hate when I get those informations from my computer. I think it's all going to work okay, but I just want to make sure. Hang on a second. Sorry. Timeout. Really fast timeout. Just want to make sure I'm plugged in. Aha. This is the problem. There. Phew. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Now you got to see all my thing. Now we're working. It was unplugged. That's what happened. So listen. Typical live for me. That's how it goes with live videos. Like I'm back in all my stuff going on. Thanks for being patient, everybody. Woo. This is important. It's kind of, whenever something like that happens, where I get started with something and there's something that goes off in it, I always take these things as a lesson. And this is kind of a thing that happens, I think, with a lot of people. What happens if you get into your program and it's working really well and the world breaks down? Kind of like what's going on right now. And it was working okay, and maybe you weren't prepared. A lot of parents aren't prepared for this kind of, I got to do this myself. What do you mean taking responsibility for fixing my child's communication? I'm not a speech therapist. I didn't learn how to go to speech therapy school, and my kid won't even sit and play with me. How am I going to figure all this out? And the answer is, you can do it, but you have to take the first step. Okay. And if your child has, that's what we were talking about, unresolved medical issues, right? It doesn't matter if your child has seizures every so often, hopefully not every day, because that's going to be challenging, because that's brain damage. And seizures is a really big event. But when we talk about, let's say, allergies, or they have an immune problem, or ear infections haven't gone away, or, any kind of thing related to genetic or chromosomal issues, any kind of thing, even autism, that is persisting in your child as far as a medical condition that is affecting their body in some way, it's going to be really important for you to work with your holistic medical team. I call it a holistic medical team because sometimes it's Western medicine, sometimes Eastern medicine, chiropractors. Parents are praying about it. I mean, all different kinds of things, whatever you use to help your child feel better. And the most important thing about this whole process, whether you're in therapy or not, you're doing it at home, your language facilitation is going, is that you every single day, you take the responsibility for getting with your child, talking with your child in a way that they can hear you 2 to 3 hours a day. It doesn't matter what is going on. If your child is not able to participate, maybe they have physical issues. I've got kids that aren't walking yet and have motor issues with their hands and stuff. They don't have to do and participate. They just have to listen in the zone with you 2 to 3 hours every day. And it's really important that you do it properly, that this talking you're doing with your child is the language that they want to hear you say. And there's a whole process to figure out how to do that. I go through it in my book. Here's my book. It's called If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun, right? Remember, all that therapy that you are doing that is no fun, your child is resisting it. And if your child is resisting therapy that is not fun, it is wasting time, money, energy, all of that. Even if you're not paying for it, you still have to welcome that person in your home or take your child to a place or schedule a telesession or something like that. And your time and effort should be worth the output, the gain that you are getting from that session. Period. End of. And if you're not, then it's time to say no thank you, because as a parent, that time could be better spent doing literally anything that your child is interested in doing or that you need to do with your child. It doesn't even have to be all super fun stuff. You can learn language while you're doing chores. You can learn language, all of that. So thank you so much for thinking out of the box with your kids. They will appreciate the fact that you want to teach them about life, because teachers are set, therapists are set, they've got curriculum, they've got maths and spellings and all that stuff that they've got to teach kids. Your job is to teach your child to be successful in life. So, and that's what's going on. It doesn't matter if they have unresolved medical issues. You're not going to stop searching for the right medical solutions for your child, but it doesn't mean that you should not start doing language intervention now. Now, don't wait for anything. There's no reason to wait for your child to feel better, them to get older or younger, they're not going to get younger, obviously. So you haven't missed the boat. You can't wait for speech to open up or get better or do whatever. It's going to be a year. You can't wait. You can't wait for speech. You can't wait for more therapy to have a solution, even if the therapy's working great. You can't wait for that to happen, because if you are not teaching your child the functional language, nobody else is, right? They need you to get that language in there so that those other therapies and teaching sessions and whatever else that you're doing with them will even work. They'll even pay attention. They'll even understand what the heck is going on, right? Unless they learn how to listen and understand language from everybody, they can't expand, right? So hopefully now you understand why language facilitation is important to start with. You can start in my book. You can learn there. I have an independent study course and I work with people as a client. In my program, what I do is we go through and we analyze what is going on to block your child's speech. So here's a good example. Erin's been emailing me a little bit today. She's got an 11-year-old late talker, and she says right here, our daughter struggles in social situations with conversation. She's 11. So there's a lot more I would need to know about that situation, but I can tell you, and my biggest guess about why that might be happening is just like every other child who's 10 years old or 11 years old or even 5 or 6 or 7 years old, and they want to make friends, but they don't have good language. And your child, Erin, may have amazing needs-based language, just like the 17-year-old that I'm working with. Can talk to anybody, can, tell Mrs. Jones what you want to eat, and she'll tell, they'll tell them. answering questions. They can even retell stories and use all kind of language, but they're not good at making friends or talking to people because all they know is prompted, scripted language. And while you as a parent might be super great at interpreting the combination of whatever speech she's using with whatever behavior she's using, and the fact that you've known her for 11 years and read her mind all those years, you know those things. Your daughter also knows that you know what she means by her nonverbal communication, but she doesn't have that same level of comfort with strangers. She can't. They haven't been reading her mind for 11 years or interpreting the nonverbal communication or limited verbal speech that she has. They are doing their best to take it at face value. And if she uses a grammatically incorrect sentence or mixes up the pronoun or something like that, someone who's not a very savvy interpreter, like a teacher or a therapist or something like that, they're going to be like, what is she talking about? I don't get it. And she sees that an 11-year-old, especially 11-year-old girls, are very sensitive to how people react to them when they communicate. And if an 11-year-old girl is not sure she is going to get a positive result from this social interaction, guess what? She's not going to go there. She's going to avoid it. She's going to be shy. That's where shy comes from. Is I'm not comfortable or confident in this situation. I might know everything. I might know all the language I need to participate with these people, but I'm not confident about it. I'll do it at home with mom when we're playing and we'll do that kind of stuff, but not with these people because she's still relying on what question is this person going to ask me? Am I going to know the right answer? Have I learned it? Literally, have I studied for the test that this person, this stranger, this teacher, this everyone is going to give me? Because every single person outside of you with a late talking child is going to ask them questions. Everyone. I mean, I ask questions to everybody I meet because they're talkers. Hello, how are you? What's your name? What do you do for a living? Are you new here to Florida? I mean, when I see people at the aquarium, I don't know them. I never met them. I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions. If that person is shy and they're told by, their mom, this little kid is told by their mom, oh, this nice lady's talking to you. Let's talk to her. Petrified. They're petrified of the situation. Doesn't matter how old the child is. And little kids are afraid of things. They get to be fearless after a little while, but once they start, especially a pre-adolescent female girl is gonna have, they know what drama looks like and they don't want to be part of it. They don't want to be made fun of. They don't want to be anybody giving them weird looks. They know what weird looks look like. They do. Even though they're not perceiving or talking about it or responding to it all the time outwardly, they may be. It's up to you. Every child's different. But if your child is stuck, Erin, in this situation where, she doesn't know how to communicate with strangers because she probably is stuck in just trying to access the memorized language that she's got in there that you have done with all the therapies over the years, filled up those vocabulary file boxes, that was the old days where we actually use paper and pencil. Now it would be the Google Drive, right? Her language Google Drive is full of vocabulary, tons of vocabulary, probably even vocabulary you don't know she knows. But without having opportunity to observe and be facilitated through conversational language with someone who's willing to listen to her, interpret her language, and show her the right way to communicate her feelings, not just what other people are saying, that's when she will learn the conversational language. And like I said, the families I've got, my oldest girl is a 13-year-old who is very nonverbal and she had like 7 different techno devices, a phone. Her phone was the latest, but 3 or 4 different devices because she went up through the levels in the devices. The basic ones she learned so fast, and then they get the different levels, and then they get the different things, and she got so good at like swiping through things. I want this blue thing, blah 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 blah, and she would go on and on about nonverbal things, and can tell a whole sentence, and would be doing all of that. And her mom's like, I don't know, like these things are very important to her. She needs these technology devices to survive in the world. And I said, yeah, great, we'll keep them until she doesn't wanna use them anymore. And guess what? Now it's I guess we're about a year later, not even a year, because it was this about this time of year, October maybe, that we started to get together, about a year ago now, and this little girl has given up all the devices. The only thing that she's using now is her phone, which she told her mother that she wanted for Christmas, the new iPhone 13 with spoken language. She told her exactly what she wanted, and she got it, and now she's using it for texting because that's what every 11-year-old girl wants a phone for. She doesn't want the pictures. She's learning to type. She's using to learn pictures and words to type in text, kind of an emoji sort of texty way she's learning, but she's reading out those texts with spoken language, as part of her therapy. That's what she's doing as part of her school. Kids are learning to talk. They are giving up these iPads because they're so limited. If you're in the middle of an emotional situation, oh my goodness, look at this beautiful dolphin in the ocean. Now I've got to spend 10 minutes trying to program that in on my iPad for it to come, and the dolphins are gone. This little girl learned because her mom gives her tons of fabulous experiences in the world, how to talk at Disney, how to talk when they go kayaking, how to talk when they go hiking in the woods behind their house, how to talk when they, experience in the car while they're driving in the car. So, this adolescent age girl who was completely stuck on using computer systems and super good at using them gave them up when she knew how to talk, when she learned how to talk and use spoken language. Is her spoken language perfect? No, it's only been 1 year, a year ago, 1 year. She gave it all up. It actually started by Christmas. Remember, Christmas time was when she asked for this phone. So within 6 months, she was like, these things are not working. Like, I can use real speech to tell my mom that she took a wrong turn, or to go over here and stop because I have to go to the bathroom, or whatever. Right? That's what you want your adolescent age child to be telling you. You want them to have access to tell you when they feel like a tummy ache, or, they didn't like that somebody said something bad to them. Right? That's what's important about all of this. And this is why parents are the only ones that can teach this sort of language. So, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I only see a couple likes. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like. It always is good. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps Facebook or YouTube, everybody else, get these videos out to more parents. It's really super important that parents give language facilitation a try today. And the ways you get started are on my website. You can learn everything. You can access the book. It's on Amazon. It's available worldwide. There's a link in the description of this video. You can access everything. The book, I have an independent study course that you can study online and learn the whole process. You can see that on the website. The introductory class for that independent study course is also on my website. It's 90 minutes, and it is very important that you watch that class as your first jump start to language facilitation. It teaches you why kids get stuck, why parents get stuck, why your mindset is so important, and it also guides you to using all the resources on my platform, YouTube, Facebook, the book, all of the stuff that I do. In my group on Facebook, that's why I keep talking about Facebook. I was working with it earlier today. In my Facebook group, I post daily blogs about language facilitation in my language facilitation resources group. And they just take the book and the basic stuff to the next level. Because remember, parents are the best language facilitators. You are the ones. You are the ones that are going to be able to get your kids to talk, because everyone else is going to pull language out. You are the ones to put the language in. And if you want your child to be successful when they go to make friends, Aaron, or when they go to school, back when school starts, and make friends when everything opens back up, you could go back into that with tons of new language, tons of new language. And that's what happened to all the parents now. I had parents who were working with me, and in March, when COVID came, all the schools shut down, and all my language facilitator parents in my lifetime program started booking calls with me saying, where do we start? We got to have a new plan. Those schools closed. I'm with my kid 24/7 now, and I got to know how to keep my progress going. And what happened with all of those parents, every single one of them who decided to take action and help their kids a little bit every single day, They only had to take a little action every single day to work with their kids to teach them language. Now they're sending them back to school, and their teachers are like, "What did you do?" Now he will sit. Before COVID, even though they were working with me, the kids weren't sitting well in school. They weren't listening well in school. They weren't following directions. They weren't doing all that stuff. Now that their parents, they've been home with their parents since March, they're going back to school, and the teachers are like, wait a minute, now your kid can sit in class. They're going to higher level classes because they can't, like, it's too easy. The parents have taught them how to use it. So, Aaron says, I look forward to your intro class. Good. I definitely for you. And Tiffany says, I'm going to get the book and look into the independent study. That's awesome. All on the website. You can get that. Go. And Anna Max says, this information is so important. It makes so much sense. Thank you. Oh, Anna, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the comments, everybody. It does make sense, right? Right now, it doesn't matter. Nothing is working very well. I just saw on Facebook 2 posts that reminded, that's what prompted me to make this video. One of them is from a speech therapist in a speech therapy group where the speech therapists are complaining about her caseload of 100 children on her public school caseload. And if your kid is on a public school caseload, that therapist has more than 50. At the very minimum, the ASHA requirements, 55 or 60 is what they're allowing schools to give to therapists. So your therapist is trying to manage 60 children, and they are supposed to be teaching all 60 of those children how to use functional language. It's never going to happen. Because remember, on top of that, that therapist also has to do paperwork. They have to have meetings. They have to consult with you. And if you expect that therapist to teach your child functional communication, you are fooling yourself 100%. It's just not going to happen. You have to take action, even if your kid is on a caseload with a therapist. Even if they're going 3 times a week with that therapist. And if they are, then you should be working with that therapist to train you. And if that therapist won't train you, if it's taking your kid and doing little imitation things with them, things that they say you can't do, they're not the right things. They're not functional things. Remember, they'll only get your kiddo so far. This functional language facilitation is working for everybody. And everybody, it doesn't matter how old, it doesn't matter what's going on, it doesn't matter. If you will take action with your child every day, you will see results. I use this analogy today. I was thinking about the fires in California. And the same thing here in Florida happens when we have storms go through. After the storms go through, there's left with destruction, right? In California, even if you don't have, your house didn't catch on fire. If there was a fire in the vicinity, your house is going to smell like smoke, right? If it got whatever, your car, something like that, if smoke permeates your house or your car, you've got to take action to get rid of the smoke. You can't just hope the smoke will dissipate. It gets in and permeates, right? And you can wake up every day and hope the smoke will go away and be a little bit better today, but without proper cleaning, it's always going to be around. You're always going to have that lingering smoky smell in your house. Same thing happens in Florida with mold, right? If you don't get all the mold taken care of right away when your house gets wet in Florida, it's going to just continue to grow and continue to grow, right? So that's the same analogy. This happens with language delay. Language delay or late talking will stay late talking because your kids are already working on developing their own nonverbal language, full of echolalia, gestures, all that stuff. And they are focusing on, I'm going to develop more sophisticated nonverbal communication. And you or therapists are trying to get them to talk. And that's a disconnect. That's why language facilitation is important for parents to do, because you want to get your kiddo straight. We are teaching spoken language in our house. You tell your child, by the way, no matter how old they are, even if they're 2, that you are facilitating spoken language with them. You don't have to sneak it up. Speech therapists sneak in the work. Ooh, we'll just have some fun here and hopefully talking will come. Not with language facilitation. Language facilitation, everybody has the intention. that this child's going to talk more. We work together. You and I, the child and mama. Child has to listen to mama. Mama has to talk in a way child can listen. And mama has to guide everybody else to either talk differently with your child or guide your child to listen differently to those adults. Because your child has to learn to listen to everybody in your environment. The more people they listen to, the more language they will learn. And the less they listen, the more they're in their own head, their own zone without you, the more they will be nonverbal communicators. Okay? Because they're never stopping communicating. No kid will stop. If they want something, they won't hesitate. That's the one thing that every lay talker has in common. They'll tell you what's on their mind. They're just using nonverbal ways to do it. And that's a parent's what I call the golden egg. Whenever your child is already non-verbally communicating and you're already reading their mind to know what they're saying non-verbally with their behaviors, that's when you turn it into language. It literally is that easy. Now, the strategies are easy, but change is hard. Kids who are stuck in nonverbal communication, if they're stuck in avoiding you, then big changes have to happen on your side because your child has to decide themselves that you are interesting enough to listen to, and that grandma and that teacher or therapist or whoever else you're trying to get them to listen to is the right person for them to listen to. You got to back them up if you believe them and be part of that process for your child. You're driving the show. You're doing the whole thing. So let's see. Tiffany says, so true. Just found out my 4-year-old knows his ABCs by letting him use MS Word. There you go. Like literally, I'm just going to put my kid in front of the computer and see what they know. And he started typing his ABCs. That's amazing, Tiffany. He started saying his ABCs, but I think I burned him out with it because he stopped. Well, and the thing is, maybe he doesn't need to know it over and over and over again, Tiffany. Maybe your child is so smart that he heard ABCs on rhymes or songs or whatever, saw them in books. You put him in front of the computer. He tried it out for himself to play and see, okay, I listened, I learned, I'm applying my own processing, I'm typing ABC. He got positive feedback from you when he was doing it. Wow, look at you. You know ABCs. Like you talked about it. The learning situation was over and you're done. And then what happened was you got so excited by that output. My kid knows ABCs. He's nonverbal, but he knows his ABCs. And you jumped on ABCs and you burnt him out. That's exactly what happened because you weren't thinking about what he was thinking. You were so excited about that output and getting more of that output because it made you feel, at least my kid knows something. You get that little bit like when you say a prayer and something good happens and you get that. And Tiffany says exactly, right? You can't wait. You can't help. And that's what parents do. That's why you get stuck, everybody. Just like Tiffany, it happens to everybody. I just did the last video I did about expectations. You can expect your child to get better at things that they like, but you can also expect them to burn out if you overteach it. Right? Nobody wants to be overtaught. Think about the classes you went to in school where the teacher was like, okay, I'll sign up because I got to go to this thing. It's like the next level class at uni or, whatever. And you're like, oh, and the teacher is like, it's literally the same stuff you already heard. How many times do you think about skipping class? Right? And even when you're in the class, if you decide to go there, you're not thinking about what the teacher is. You're doodling. You're thinking about your grocery list. What you're going to do on Saturday night. I mean, you're not there. You're not listening and learning. And especially with older kids, they get really good at acting present. I mean, think about how you did it when you were a student and you didn't like the teacher. It's real good to act present and not be present. And that's not going to help you. That's not going to help your kid. That's not going to help you in your relationship, right? Other people will come and go. You're stuck. You're the mama. You're the dad. You're the one who's with your kid 24/7. And if you can't get them to listen to you, you are not going to get them to listen to anybody. And when they listen to you, when they learn how to listen to you, then you can get them to listen to everybody. But one will block the other. Listening is what it's all about. And why do you want to listen to people? Because you're interested, because you're curious, because what they're saying relates to you and is interesting to you, and you care about wanting to learn that thing. That's when you want to listen. And if you excite that part of your child's brain, the happy part, the fun part, that's why it's called If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun. It isn't fun if it's no fun. And guess what? Your child will tap out. They'll leave. And if you know it, you know it. All right. That's enough for this video. I want to try to keep it under an hour. I know I've been babbling on as usual. Thank you so much for joining me live, everybody. I'm always happy to see you. I'm here every Monday, live at noon. And on Thursdays, I'm over on Facebook at 2 p.m. Don't forget, if you haven't joined me on Facebook, if you're a Facebooker and you like that, go ahead and look in the description here to join my group, because in my group, there is tons of information, blogs every day with ideas and strategies. And there are ways for you to learn how to do this on your own. Just like I said, I have an independent study course. I have a book. The most important thing, the last thing I'm going to leave you with, is do something today. And then tomorrow do something, and the next day do something, and the next day do something. Now it happens every day. So every day you can go on wavesofcommunication.com, read something, do something, take some action, not just with my videos. Take something and do it with your child, right? Every single video has ideas that you can make one little change that will facilitate helping your child listen to you better. Everybody can do this. It doesn't matter what's going on with your child or how old they are. You can teach them the language you want. And if you want it to happen fast, then work with me, because I won't let you falter. If you're in my lifetime program and you want to see progress every single week, you can meet with me and we can get your kiddo talking. But you got to learn how to take massive action if you want massive results, right? A little action, a little results. Massive action, massive results. But it's got to be the right action, because remember, you can do a lot of bad therapy and get a lot of negative results, right? Has to be the right thing, has to be you, can't be anybody else. Sorry, moms, you can't pass this one off. It's got to be you. It's got to be the right strategies. It's got to be every single day. That's why the strategies are easy and fun, because if it was a struggle, you wouldn't want to do it every day. You have to have fun every day. The parents I work with have fun every day with their kids. There's no reason to wait for future happiness and give up your today's happiness for future results. There's no reason to do that. It's your life. It's your kid. Life is short, and you have this chance now to be home with your kiddo. Learn how to teach them. You can do it. You can do it. So I heard astrology. Thank you for understanding my technical glitch and all that stuff. You're such a gift. Thank you for your inspiration and dedication. I'm super dedicated. It is my mission. It is to teach as many parents as possible all over the world how to do this. You can do this. If every video one other mom starts to do language facilitation with their child, then I'm happy. And I know the universe will bring me clients that will help support me so that I can keep doing it. But this is the only way. Right now, I'm only supported by my clients. I give all these pretty videos. I do all of this stuff on my own time because it's part of my mission. Right? It's part of my mission to make this happen. And I just know the right clients, the ones that are going to need the services, will come to me, because that's what I manifest in the universe. I put out good stuff, and the people who really need help. It's just like that smoke or that mold situation. You can go to Home Depot and you can do it yourself if you feel like you really got it going on. But don't mess up the project by trying to do it on your own and do it around. If you're not seeing progress after a week or two toward better listening, even 1 week, you should start to see progress with language facilitation. If you're not seeing progress after a week, you could be doing things wrong and hurting your process, because a lot of parents use subconscious prompting. You might not be asking your child outright to say words anymore, but believe me, they still know you expect it. And in the back of your mind, if you're pulling words, like falling back into that situation, like Tiffany said, you can slide right back into over teaching, push your child away, find yourself stuck, and that's what happens. So great. And so, I heard astrology says I've seen progress every time I used a strategy. Excellent. That is Thank you for that feedback because listen, she's right. It's true. It works. These things are just functional. It's not rocket science. It's parenting and language facilitation and just teaching your kids what you know. You don't have to get a degree in speech pathology to teach your child. You would if you needed to teach everybody else's, but not your own. You know your child better than anybody. So, again, thanks for joining me, everybody. I appreciate you, and I will see you all on my next video. I Heart Astrology says it works, and she's right. Bye for now.